by viewers like you. Please consider becoming a sustaining supporter of New Church Live. Good morning, friends. Pastor Chuck Blair here. Great to have you join me today. And today we're going to be talking about is what does it mean when we kind of getting to the core, when we work at really getting to the core in our lives and what life is really all about, and how do we do that? And it's interesting, right? Because from a Christian New Church perspective, we read old stories in the Old Testament and we look at those as poetic truths. And there's a story about carrying water and the essence of it is that you have the container and you have the contents. And the container is important. It's very hard to carry water without a pitcher. And yet, what's really important is that the pitcher is there to hold the water. The water is not there to hold the pitcher. Like if you're looking at it, one is instrumentally significant and one is missionally significant. In other words, like the instrumental part is the pot, but the water is what really matters. The container and what is then contained. What are the contents in there? Very, very important to remember that. Because what we see oftentimes is the container, and we fall in love with the container, fall in love with the external parts of our lives, but really we're supposed to keep on looking for the inside. And it's the same when we look at other people in relationships, we look at ourselves, we try to get closer to God. I mean, all of it gets down to, okay, here's the container, here's the contents. How do we go back to the contents? And here's a beautiful passage. This is from the book Secrets of Heaven, and it's talking about the fact that higher is equal to deeper, and that's again getting back to the contents. The deeper part are the contents. Heaven seems to us to be high up. Many people they picture heaven as way up high, but to angels it's deep within. So to us we see it as like the starry heavens. Angels see it as this going deeper and deeper inside themselves. Or what is the saying? The facts known to our earthly self are shallow by comparison with truth, and truth is shallow by comparison with goodness. So, in relation to truth, factual knowledge is called a cloak or a garment, whereas truth is called in relation to goodness, which is what truth is called in relation to goodness. So again, content and container. So what does that mean, friends? Well, it means that we're supposed to like look at our lives and continue to look more and more interiorly, and it's not exhaustively so or obnoxiously so. It's just to pay attention to it. So here we have the content. The content of life, our truth, our resume things, the things on the outside that make us make sort of how we would present to the world. That'd be the way to say it. And then we go deeper into the content and we go deeper and the real core of life is that goodness. A lot of people would say, no, the core of life is truth. No, the core of life is this deep goodness, this deep, deep, deep goodness. How would we capture that maybe in modern terms? Well, I love the phrasing that David Brooks uses. He says that, it's resume virtues, which are on the outside, that's the container. But then on the inside, the contents, those are your legacy virtues. In other words, this afternoon I'm going to be working on a funeral for a wonderful grandpa who just did a lot of things for a lot of people. And yeah, we'll go through the obituary, we'll go through all the external container of their lives, but then the content part, that's really what's most significant. And that's what people will want to hear. They want to, we can all read a resume, but I can tell you, doing funerals, I have yet to have a funeral where they passed me the resume. That's just not what happens. What they do is they want to talk about the deeper person. They want to talk about what this person meant in their lives. They want to talk about what this person brought to the world. It's a really, really beautiful thing. So that's what to look at today, friends. So really look at getting to the core, and so much of it really fits in very well with what we were talking about yesterday. Not a surprise, they're back-to-back passages here in the book Secrets of Heaven. It's really looking for the goodness, like really look for the goodness in other people. Now, some people it's very hidden, very hard to find. Some people you may find yourself deeply challenged to find it. And okay, so maybe there's areas where we don't quite have the eyes to see it, or maybe they're just in such a bad place at that moment that they really can't show it. But just see if you can avert your gaze to some place where you really can see it. And then again, this is really important. Talked about this yesterday. Service. What is service? Well, service is serving that good in the neighbor. It's really looking at those things where their loves are coming alive, where their life is coming alive, where they're really able to make a difference in the world, really trying to lean into that, really trying to see that, really trying to as best we can serve right there. And again, it's not fixing that. It's not even necessarily helping, I'm using Adam Grant's terms here, fix, help, serve is his way to try to get down, figure out what real service looks like to that person in that situation, in that environment. So that's the thought for today, friends. Pretty simple and not always that easy to do, but get to the core, look for the goodness. Get to the core, look for the goodness. All right. So what we're going to do now is now we're going to shift gears. And we're going to shift gears. We're going to take a little breath, do a little meditation, a little prayer, and then we will say hi to our dear friends who join us every day. Again, my apologies for being late. I actually locked myself out of my office, so I need to run home and get the keys. So with that, dear friends, let's get a little breath. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I. Be still and know that. Be still and know. Be still and. Be still. Be. Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you, bring you peace, and bring you home. Amen. All right, dear friends, let's see if we can see if it works to get hold. And again, my apologies for this morning being late, and I realize we probably don't have any comments because people are probably tuned in live and then thought we weren't going. But let's see if we can get any up here. It doesn't seem to be loading in here. All right. Well, I will please leave comments and I will gladly respond in due kind. Take care, dear friends, and